The series begins in Moscow on December 24, 1976. Several people are being photographed as Tom Hasbeck and Chris Grant meet with contact Sergei. Chris warns Sergei about a potential leak and offers to get him and his family safely to Finland. Nearby, Tom talks to a man walking his dog. The man releases the dog, Tom whistles, and walks away. Chris and Sergei quickly make their escape. The narrative shifts to Bea Grant browsing a street market for eggs. Twyla Hasbeck approaches, offering her support and helping negotiate a fair price. This marks their first encounter as embassy spouses, and a friendship quickly blossoms. Meanwhile, Chris and Tom are caught in a high-speed pursuit. Before the man is fatally shot, he scribbles a message on a blank card. Next, Bea and Chris share a quiet moment at home. Bea struggles with her feelings of inadequacy as a secretary and housewife, while Chris undertakes dangerous missions, though the affection between them is clear. Across town, Twyla and Tom argue in their apartment, highlighting the tensions in their marriage. At the embassy Christmas party, Bea and Twyla reconnect, only to be ushered away. In a bathroom meeting, Dane Walter delivers shocking news. Chris and Tom died in a plane crash with no survivors. A cover story is provided, and both women are sent back to the United States to be with family. Back in Rhode Island, Bea discovers the card Sergei wrote before his death, its message raising more questions. Twyla's return to Indiana is markedly colder, greeted by her mother's estranged boyfriend, contrasting with Bea's warm reception from her Russian grandmother. Even the CIA cannot determine who orchestrated the deaths of Chris and Tom. Later, Bea and Twyla come together at a memorial for their husbands, sharing in their grief at the unanswered questions. Over drinks at a bar, they both feel a strong pull to return to Moscow. Bea reveals the card to Twyla, noting that the handwriting isn't her husband's. Recognizing the chance to uncover the truth, they track down Dane and make their case to return in an official capacity. While Dane is evasive, he raises the matter with George H.W. Bush, who reluctantly permits them to participate as operatives on the mission. Though skeptical, he agrees to give them a chance. By January 1977, Bea and Twyla are back in their Moscow apartments. The absence of their husbands casts a heavy emotional shadow over the familiar spaces. During a briefing with Dane, they receive their covers. Bea continues as an embassy secretary, while Twyla takes on her first secretarial assignment. Neither is thrilled about lacking an immediate field role. After their shifts, Dane drives them in the backseat of a car, explaining that the KGB is tracking him, not them. He instructs them on surveillance detection and reveals their ongoing effort to flip a Soviet agent, codenamed CK Solar. Dane directs Bea to interact with the agent for intelligence, with Twyla acting as lookout. When a lipstick mark appears on Bea's door, it signals a planned meeting with CK Solar. On the way, Dane and Twyla encounter Andrei Vasilyev, who questions their cover story of dining together and notes the deaths of two of Dane's men. The following day, Twyla brings a speaker to the market to identify embedded music, discovering it contains Morse code that will require translation. That evening, the lipstick mark reappears. As they prepare for the handoff, Andrei orders one of his men to collect information on the Americans. When the intelligence fails to meet his standards, he intimidates the man into compliance. Bea carries a book to a pub and delivers her code phrase accidentally to the wrong person. Sasha Shevchenko, a jittery young man, approaches her, confirming the code. Both are tense and cautious. Andrei soon arrives, observing their interaction. Twyla signals Bea to leave, but she inadvertently engages with Andrei, who immediately grows suspicious of her American identity. In a flashback to 4 weeks earlier, we see Chris whispering something to Sasha. The content of his words remains a mystery. Back in the present mission, Twyla realizes that a pub sticker, a winged horse spanning the globe, matches the symbol on Chris's card, throwing her into a panic. As the Soviet vehicle approaches, she alerts Bea. Defying caution, Twyla abandons her post and sets a fire inside the bar to create a diversion, giving Bea a chance to slip away. Once safely outside, the two women debrief each other. Twyla now recognizes Andrei from her earlier encounter with him alongside Dane and understands the bar's significance. Meanwhile, Andrei corners Sasha, demanding identification and secretly inspecting the book Bea had given him, signaling that he's onto the operatives and could be a serious threat. Dane is displeased when he learns Bia and Twyla set the fire, even though the mission succeeded. He decides they need formal training and enlists Ray to oversee it. Dane is also frustrated that Bia's cover may have been compromised with Andre. At the same time, Sasha soaks a page from the book to extract instructions, then consumes it. Later, he lingers at work to decipher the item Bia provided and feigns illness when caught. Bea begins her training while Twyla worries that she might be sent home, but Dane reassures her, praising her instinct in starting the fire. He also advises her to cultivate a softer approach to connect better in the field. During her training, Bea sneaks into a closet in Sasha's apartment but is discovered when he unexpectedly returns. With his bathtub overflowing, she seizes the moment, escaping by leaping from his balcony into a dumpster below. A crash course in spycraft that accelerates her adrenaline. Sasha senses someone's presence but cannot confirm it. Twyla, meanwhile, goes out to dinner with Shep's friend George and Cheryl, aiming to charm him. Back at her apartment, Bea answers an unusual red phone in the hall closet. Andre is calling, requesting her cover name, Nadia. Twyla has successfully charmed George, allowing Bea to rush to Dane's home, furious about the red phone and Andre's advances. Although Bea is reluctant to feign interest in a KGB agent, Dane explains that getting close to the enemy is part of the job. By morning, Bea tells Twyla that after breaking into their agent's apartment and being forced to interact with Andre, she intends to quit. Twyla pushes back, insisting Bea complete the dead drop before leaving. She also accompanies Shep in taking George out and showing him around Moscow. Bea receives orders for the drop at the baths, where Sasha places the item in a towel bin. Twyla meets her market friend and George at a nightclub, but Bea retrieves her for the drop. Before departing, Twyla introduces Bea to George, who is knowledgeable about flight paths. At the bathhouse, Twyla confidently enters the men's locker room to retrieve the drop from the towel bin. Unfortunately, the camera given to Sasha malfunctions, requiring a replacement. Twyla signals him with a Kit Kat outside a store. Bea completes the handoff, learning Sasha's real name and asking about Chris. Sasha mentions another woman and expresses concern about someone in his apartment before leaving abruptly. Meanwhile, George has a sexual encounter at his hotel under surveillance via a camera hidden in a clock. Andre meets a woman, gives her a paper, kisses her, then kills her. Later, Bea questions Twyla about the plane crash, wondering if it was faked. Twyla hesitates, citing her imminent departure from the CIA. She does reveal discovering a tape in her apartment transmitting a code that could have been flight plans, suggesting a possible setup implicating Tom. While enjoying wine with Twyla, Bea's red phone rings again. It's Andre, arranging a date. Meanwhile, George discovers that the woman he had slept with, the same woman Andre had met, is dead. Trying to mask the situation, he calls the embassy, claiming he lost his passport. Privately, he meets with Twyla at the airport and reveals the truth. The sex worker he was with has been murdered. Twyla assures him that she will look into the case. Meanwhile, the team prepares Bea for her upcoming encounter with Andre, refining her accent and solidifying her cover story. Bea is anxious. She fears Andre may suspect her true identity or even pose a lethal threat. Twyla shares the news about the sex worker with Ray, but he advises her not to dig further. She cannot shake the feeling that the death is tied to their broader mission. Andre schedules a movie date with Bea, while Ray uncovers a pattern. Over the past 2 years, a dozen anonymous sex workers have been killed, many of whom were connected. Twyla resolves to interview sex workers for leads. Twyla and Ray visit a brothel, questioning a woman about the victims in newspaper clippings. While most of the women were acquaintances of hers, one remains unknown. Dane informs Bea that they must bug Andre's newly discovered secondary residence. Hesitant, Bea admits to Dane the true reason she became a spy, to uncover what happened to Chris. She vows not to leave until she finds answers. Meanwhile, Ray cautions Twyla against meeting her market friend, warning that her involvement could endanger Bea's cover. Initially unaware of Bea's date with Andre, Twyla is briefed on the time and location, causing her to reconsider her plans. At the restaurant, Twyla spots her friend but decides not to meet her, instead observing Bea and Andre from a distance in the theater. Their date concludes sooner than expected, and Bea pulls Andre into a kiss. In the car, the kiss continues, and Bea probes whether Andre has another residence, prompting him to suggest her apartment. She brings him to Sasha's place, entering ahead of him to inform Sasha of her plan. Sasha hides on the balcony, carefully descending while Bea erases any trace of his presence. Once on the street, Twyla meets Sasha, who fears for his life. She reassures him and slips a pair of her socks onto his bare feet to keep him calm. Bea's date ends smoothly, allowing Twyla to plant a bug in Andre's car. The two women celebrate the successful operation, but Twyla notices a personal photograph Bea took from Sasha's apartment. She recognizes the woman in the photo as one of the murdered sex workers. Thanks to the bug, Andre's next encounter with another woman is recorded. In a flashback to May 1976, Tom walks past a crime scene, the same woman from Sasha's photograph. At the office, the murder weapon is being cataloged, tying past events to the present investigation. Back in present, during a morning run, Bea notices a woman in the distance keeping an eye on them and seemingly following their movements. She approaches the woman, who informs her that a designated location has been moved. Back at the office, Dane and Ray brief Bea and Twyla on Vera and the information she intends to provide. Bea discovers a paper Vera had discreetly slipped into her pocket. Dane assigns Twyla to lead the mission, and she teams up with Ray to decode the image on the paper, which also reveals the meeting point. Ray mentions that Vera may hold answers about Chris and Tom, and he notes that Twyla was chosen because of her concern for the women no one else notices. Later that night, Sasha is startled by a knock at his door. Andre stands there unexpectedly. Recognizing Sasha from the bar the night he first encountered Bea, Andre pushes inside, threatening him. Thinking quickly, Sasha claims to be Bea's boyfriend, prompting Andre to leave with a chilling warning to crush him like an insect. Bea spots a signal from Sasha's window, and they meet later that night. He fills her in on the events of the evening, including his quick-thinking impersonation. Though wary, they fabricate a story about meeting at first sight, which comes across as natural and charming. Twyla's teasing about Bea's apparent crush on Sasha now makes sense. Teaming up with Sasha, Bea brings a photo she took from his apartment to Dane to identify the woman. They determine the woman was his sister, likely a sex worker killed by the KGB. As preparations begin for the St. Patrick's Day party, Twyla steps aside to meet Vera. Vera demands $100,000 from the U.S. government for someone called the Butcher, along with a passport to leave the country. Meanwhile, Sasha creates a diversion at work by spilling water on a coworker's desk to steal an item. As he leaves the building, he is mugged by a man, but still retains what he took. Twyla finds herself negotiating between Dane and Vera. Sasha meets with Bea, convinced that Andre sent the mugger. He gives her the device he stole, but doubts whether he can continue acting as her agent and faux boyfriend. Bea reminds him he is doing it for his sister, Galina. Learning that his sister was murdered, along with many other women, rekindles his resolve. However, he requests a cyanide pill as a contingency in case the KGB captures him. Bea and Twyla devise a plan to steal a painting from Alan's office and provide it to Vera so she can secure the cyanide pill for Sasha. They produce a forgery convincing enough to pass, enabling Vera to exchange her new passport for the pill. Vera then reveals the truth about Chris and Tom. The plane they were on did not crash. They landed safely, but were immediately ambushed and killed outside, with soldiers waiting for them. Shockingly, Vera claims that someone tipped off the Russian forces, someone who turned out to be Tom. Twyla learns her husband was a Soviet mole. When Vera demands another favor in exchange for more details, Twyla approaches her in frustration, causing Vera to fall from a bridge into the water below. Even as she dies, Vera confirms to Bea that she witnessed Chris and Tom's deaths. Overcome with grief, Bea breaks down, realizing her husband is truly gone. Twyla withholds the revelation of Tom's betrayal. Bea and Twyla return to Vera's body to recover the American passport, ensuring her death cannot be traced back to them. Bea delivers the cyanide pill and new instructions to Sasha. sharing with him that her husband was killed. They bond over their shared losses. Ray retrieves the items from Vera's body from Twyla, burning her passport in his office, though their new nanny secretly observes. At the St. Patrick's Day party, Bea and Twyla try to relax, but are forced into a corner when Dane threatens to terminate the Vera mission. They enlist the help of Bea's grandmother to keep things on track. Bea brings her grandmother Manya into Moscow as part of a risky new operation. The plan is to use Manya as a stand-in for Vera, since the Russians have never seen her in person and her age makes the deception plausible. The team prepares carefully for what they call the caterpillar drop. Bea wants to accompany her grandmother, but Twyla insists on handling the fieldwork herself, especially given the family connection. Around the same time, Bea receives fresh instructions directing her attention toward Andre. Before heading out, she pulls Dane aside and voices unease about Twyla being placed in danger alongside her grandmother. Dane listens but offers little reassurance. Elsewhere, Twyla is summoned by Shep to attend the ballet. She tries to avoid it and ultimately succeeds by revealing that his wife is having an affair. The information lands exactly as intended, freeing Twyla from the obligation and clearing her night. Andre later collects Bea for another date at Sasha's apartment, still believing it belongs to Bea. He kisses her in the car, but she responds awkwardly this time, fully aware that the team is listening through the bug Twyla planted. Andre appears oblivious to her discomfort. Later, Twyla confides in Manya, opening up about her marriage to Tom. She admits her fear that Bea will eventually learn the truth, that Tom was a mole and that his actions contributed to Chris's death. Twyla worries that once Bea knows, she may no longer trust or work with her. Manya offers quiet advice, and Twyla decides Bea doesn't need the full truth yet. For now, she chooses to keep her distance, emotionally. That evening, Bea joins Andre at a poker game while Twyla escorts Manya to the Caterpillar Exchange. Hidden nearby, Twyla watches in horror as Russian operatives seize Vera and drive her away. Twyla immediately alerts Dane, and the team scrambles. At the poker table, Bea connects with a woman who once had a relationship with Andre. The woman warns Bea that the men in the room are dangerous and advises her to seek out someone named Oksana. Taking the warning seriously, Bea moves closer to the table and persuades Andre to show her off. While leaning in, she secretly photographs documents using her cigarette case. The situation deteriorates when someone mentions Vera. Bea quickly convinces Andre to let her accompany him, and he agrees. As Dane, Ray, and Twyla race to locate Manya, Ray's nanny, Evie, watches them leave. Her behavior raises concern, especially given her earlier access to sensitive areas. Andre brings Bea to a remote mansion where Manya is being held and questioned. Bea slips upstairs and listens through a vent as Andre reveals he knows Manya is not Vera. Thinking fast, Manya claims her name is Maria and says she was paid by strangers to impersonate Vera. Andre switches to English as he calmly explains how she will be tortured. Manya pretends not to understand, while Bea is forced to watch as her grandmother is dragged outside and loaded into a truck. Bea races back to Andre's car, using the bug to guide the team. They intercept her at the mansion, but the danger isn't over. Inside the truck, a man helps Manya escape, revealing himself as Caterpillar. He cryptically says the Russians are missing key pieces. He explains the operation was a cover, meant to pass something valuable to Vera's handlers. He hands it over just as Dane arrives and rescues Manya. They attempt to save Caterpillar as well, but he misses the getaway and is captured. Afterward, Manya convinces Dane to let her return briefly to her hometown before heading back to America. At the train station, she and Bea share an emotional farewell. Later, Bea meets Sasha in the park. When they notice they're being watched, they take each other's hands and don't let go until the observer leaves. Twyla tries to repair her relationship with Bea, suggesting they spend time together, but Bea refuses. Alone that night, Bea discovers a hidden tape beneath Chris's pillow labeled Good Times. Watching it, she's shaken to see Chris with another woman, revealed to be Sasha's sister. Elsewhere, Ray realizes his home has been bugged, confirming that there is a mole closer than anyone expected. In a flashback, we see Bea and Chris together. They appear deeply connected, a stark contrast to the present, where B is reeling from the discovery of his betrayal. The images are projected onto the wall, making it impossible for her to escape the truth she's just uncovered. In the present, Andre calls Bea, furious and accusing her of disrespect. Bea fires back, overwhelmed and angry about how he handled Manya's situation. The call ends abruptly, leaving their relationship hanging by a thread. Meanwhile, Tom and Dane continue searching for listening devices. Their investigation leads them to a hidden passage concealed behind the fireplace. With no footprints extending deeper into the tunnels, Dane realizes the breach came from inside their own operation. At the same time, Dane is forced to deal with Bea, who is barely containing her rage. She's furious over learning that her husband had an affair with a Soviet, one who turns out to be Sasha's sister. Dane steps in to defend Chris, explaining that the relationship was calculated. Chris knew he was being recorded and deliberately let the Russians believe they had leverage over him, hoping it would protect the mission. Dane warns Bea that she needs to regain her focus. With Andre already tangled up in her life, any slip could put everything at risk. Overcome, Bea retreats to the bathroom and breaks down. Twyla is there too, separated only by a stall. After a moment, Twyla finally admits the truth, that Tom was responsible for what happened to Chris. Bea reacts exactly as Twyla feared, storming out without a word. Later, Bea meets Sasha, who is shaken after being taken by the Russians earlier and roughly handled. He reveals that he was brought face to face with the same man who attacked him outside his workplace. Though he's been released for now, Sasha shares what he learned. The KGB is planning a raid on the hotel that very night. The goal, he believes, is a blackmail operation. The team will need to swap out the KGB's tapes with their own, ones containing a tracking device. This would finally lead them to the facility, information they failed to extract from Caterpillar. The initial plan has Twyla posing as a sex worker, with Ray acting as the easy target. However, Twyla adjusts the approach by calling in her Russian contacts. The revised plan has Twyla and Ray entering the hotel as business professionals, while Twyla's acquaintance from the market blends in as a night girl, operating unnoticed. Back at headquarters, Dane grows increasingly paranoid, eyeing everyone as a potential mole. After confiscating drugs from Shep, he gives them to Bea, leaving them on her fridge with a note urging her to clear her head. Instead, Bea ends up smoking with Sasha. Andre soon arrives at the apartment, forcing Bea to steady herself. Despite everything, she ends up sleeping with him, though her thoughts drift elsewhere. Elsewhere, Dane is reprimanded by Bush, who is furious about the team's mistakes in Moscow. Bush warns him bluntly that another failure will cost him his job. Later that night, Dane sits alone at his desk, tearing up a tape in frustration. After a long pause, he picks up an outside line and asks to meet someone in person. At the hotel, Ray brings a prostitute back to his room. Not out of desire, but necessity. The woman, Yulia, opens up about her unhappy marriage, breaking down in tears. As Ray reaches for a box of tissues to comfort her, he finds the hidden tape and smoothly replaces it with the tracker-equipped version while holding her. When Ray returns home, Evie is already there, waiting. Elsewhere, Bea goes to see Twyla, telling her she has too much to say to keep bottled up. The two women finally come together, poised to reveal everything they've been hiding. Next, we shown a wordless montage as hotel staff systematically move from room to room collecting the tapes. The sequence plays out with eerie precision, each worker perfectly in sync, underscoring how routine this surveillance operation has become. Before dawn, Dane is jolted awake by aggressive pounding on his door. It's Bea and Twyla. Once inside the bubble, Bea lays out her theory. Andre is running his own blackmail scheme. She believes he's been using compromat to control officials and manipulate outcomes, which would explain his rapid rise through the KGB ranks. There's no time to debate it. With pressure mounting from above, Dane insists they locate the compromat facility immediately. Chris and Tom lost their lives chasing this same lead, and Bea and Twyla are determined not to let that happen again. Tracking the signal from the hotel, they discover the tape isn't staying put. It's being loaded into an ambulance to avoid suspicion. They follow it until it stops, where they spot Andre meeting his wife, Tatiana. Seeing two viable targets, Bea and Twila decide to split up. Bea tails Andre to Sasha's apartment. Sasha isn't home, having gone to visit his mother. Andre lets himself inside, and Bea watches from a distance as he plants a listening device in a lamp before leaving. Twila, meanwhile, follows Tatiana from the park to a daycare center. Thinking quickly, she stages an encounter by retrieving Tatiana's child and claiming the toddler wandered into the street. Grateful and shaken, Tatiana invites Twila home for tea. Twila uses the opportunity to linger, hoping to search Tatiana's bag and see what Andre may have passed to her. Creating a distraction, Twila cuts her finger and excuses herself, while Tatiana looks for something to stop the bleeding. Twila grabs the bag and slips outside. Inside, she finds nothing more than a bottle of shampoo. At the concert, Cheryl finally unloads her frustration, confessing how alone she feels and how much she sacrifices for their family. While they're gone, Evie quietly moves through the house and discovers Ray's gun. Cheryl returns at just the wrong moment, sees what's happening, grabs the weapon, and fires. Back with Bea, she continues tracking the ambulance and eventually follows it to a remote cabin concealing an underground control room. She's found it, the facility. Inside, Andre's operation is laid bare, with screens monitoring countless feeds. Among them are recordings showing Andre murdering sex workers. Bea later goes to Sasha's apartment and slips seamlessly into character. She talks through their relationship troubles while urgently writing that they're being listened to. For the benefit of the bug, they stage a breakup. That night, as the Elton John concert continues, Bea tells Twila everything she's uncovered about Andre and the facility. She barely finishes before running straight into Andre himself. Andre corners Bea, Twila yanks her away, and the two sprint through the building, bursting straight into Elton John's dressing room. Thinking fast, they pose as part of his entourage and escort him toward the stage. Andre pursues them down the corridor, catching up just as he's about to strangle Bea. Ivana intervenes at the last second, knocking Andre unconscious and saving her. From there, Bea and Twila race to Sasha's apartment, where Bea urgently warns him that he's in danger and they need to leave immediately. During the drive, they notice Sasha is wearing his sister's sweater, fastened with a pin. Bea recognizes the symbol instantly. She's seen it before in connection with Chris. Sasha confirms the insignia belongs to Pegasus. Sasha explains that he met Chris when he began working with the CIA and recalls their encounter in the bar. Chris had leaned in and whispered, "You can trust me. I knew your sister." They eventually reach a remote cabin equipped with a secure line for extraction. Inside, Twila stumbles across stacks of boxes filled with the same shampoo she previously lifted from Andre's wife. These boxes contain tapes, specifically footage documenting the murdered women. The question is why such damning evidence is stored here. The realization hits Bea hard. This cabin isn't Oksana's dacha at all. It belongs to Andre. With no time to process it, they load as many boxes as they can and prepare to leave. As they exit, two assassins ambush them. In the violent struggle, Sasha is stabbed. Bea and Twila escape with the shampoo boxes loaded into the trunk. Andre soon gives chase, attempting to force them off the road. Thanks to quick reflexes and sharp driving, his car flips multiple times and crashes hard. Instead of fleeing, Twila insists on checking the wreckage to make sure Andre is finished. Before they can act, soldiers arrive, led by Sergeant Davis Carter of the U.S. Marines. They're there to extract Sasha. Once he's taken into custody, Bea and Twila drive away. They haul Andre back to the bubble, along with the shampoo boxes, and decide to interrogate him themselves. They intend to use him to uncover the truth about what really happened to their husbands. Andre immediately disrupts their plan by suggesting Vera may have misidentified the mole and accused the wrong husband. He claims he'll tell them everything, but only after he's given a cigarette. After Manya parts ways with Sophia, Dane arrives and speaks with her. He takes her to a safe house where the truth is finally revealed. Chris is alive. Later, Cheryl enters Evie's hospital room, fully aware that the nanny is a spy. She tampers with Evie's IV and ultimately kills her, eliminating the threat. The story then jumps back 1 week earlier to the embassy tunnels. Cheryl meets secretly with Chris, confirming her role as a double agent. She navigates the hidden passageways, planting a detonator, the same device seen earlier, which is meant to destroy evidence inside the embassy. Back in the present, Andrei drops another bombshell during interrogation. Galina Shevchenko, Sasha's sister, was killed by the CIA. She was a KGB operative, and her death explains why Emil so carefully wrapped that knife earlier in the season. The plan was to pressure Sasha into cooperating with the Americans and betraying his country. Before Bia and Twila can respond, Cheryl's detonator explodes. The embassy erupts in flames. As the fire rages, it becomes clear this destruction was part of the KGB's larger strategy. Andrei emerges from the burning bubble, smirking. Agents swarm the scene, seizing what evidence they can and holding Bia and Twila at gunpoint.